In 2012, economist Don Drummond became something of a household name. Then Premier Dalton McGuinty tasked him with making recommendations on revamping public services and getting Ontario's books out of deficit by the fiscal year 2017-18. Flash forward, and the government says the books are balanced, however, only temporarily. How did the province do on his recommendations? And as we head into an election campaign, how did and will the economy of the province do? Let's find out. Here's Don Drummond. He is the Stauffer Dunning Fellow in Global Public Policy and adjunct professor at the School of Policy Studies at Queen's University, and we're delighted to welcome you back into our studio here.
Thank you.
Let's put the numbers up here, and then I'm going to get you to comment on how well our economy is doing. Sheldon, if you would, please. Here is the fiscal health of the province, where economic growth this past year is at 2.9%. Number of jobs added, more than 170,000. Unemployment rate, lowest in about 2 decades at 6%. Export growth just off a little bit. Inflation rate at 1.7%, well within the targets. Home prices year over year, so March 2017 versus March 2018, down more than 14%. So if you're looking for a home, that's not bad news. What do these numbers say to you about the current health of the economy in this province?
Well, the economy in total is strong, and in fact, probably the measure of all those that matter most for people is the unemployment rate, and that's the latest annual number. But if you look at the latest monthly numbers, actually 5.5%. And that's kind of nice because growth rates can be strong because you're coming out of recession. They don't really speak to the level of economic activity, but the unemployment rate does speak to that level of activity. And other than a few months, way back in 2000, 18 years ago, you have to go back to 1988 and 1989 to find an unemployment rate of 5.5%.
So 30 years ago.
So this is pretty solid. And it's not the unemployment rate is low because people are dropping out of the labor force. It's low because the job creation numbers have been quite impressive. Now, they depend who you are and what your circumstances are. This is why I emphasize in total the economy is doing very well. There's pockets of challenge, but other places are growing.
Let's take a look at the fiscal position of the province as it relates to how much money the province intends to borrow. In the budget just unveiled a couple of months ago, the Ontario government announced a $600 million surplus. That's in the top left corner, the 0.6. That represents $600 million of surplus. It's actually a little bit more than that. But then as you look forward, over the next 7 years, it is deficits of more than $6 billion a year, 1, 2, 3, and then 7 years out, the Ontario government says it plans to get back to balance. We do have to stress, these are the Ontario government's numbers. The Auditor General has not signed off on these numbers. She thinks they're twice as bad as what the government is reporting. But I want to know, first of all, what your thoughts are, since you were the guy who actually gave them the prescription to get back to balance, which they say they're at now. What do you think of the fact that they intend to run deficits for the next 7 years?
So here's where I have to confess, once again, extraordinarily naive on my part. So go back to 2011, and as I said, the Premier of the day, Dalton McGuinty, asked me to do a commission with a singular mandate to help the government reach a balanced budget by 2017-18. And they did. And in fact, if we were back here in 2011 and you'd offered me a bet, even though I recommended how to do it, I think I would have taken the other side of the bet and said that they probably wouldn't have done it because I thought it was going to take really tough action, particularly a lot of restraint on spending, and I didn't think they would actually have the will to do it. But it happened. But here's the part where I was naive. If you would also have me in 2011, what would happen once they got to a balanced budget and the economy is strong? It's not like we have to stimulate the economy because the economy is weak, the economy is strong. Would I then think they would stay into balance or even go into surplus? I would have taken that side of the bet. What would I have thought? Have said, once going into balance, they'll go back into deficit.
Well, they promised they would stay in balance.
That would have shocked me. I wouldn't have thought about that at all. It wouldn't even have occurred to me that that would be the outcome. So great that they did it. In grosso modo terms, fiscally, they kind of did it along the lines I recommended, the bulk of it being on expenditure restraint. They hardly used the tax side at all, which is what I recommended that they don't do, but it may turn out to be quite fleeting.
If they win the next election, obviously on the 7th of June, and get a chance to serve some more, here's what the debt of the province will look like. And let's bring this one up, Sheldon. Here we go. The debt of the province of Ontario, that is the accumulated deficits year over year over year since Confederation to today, we're at about 37+% of the gross domestic product. And then it goes up a little bit, and then up a little bit more, and up a little bit more. And the idea is it probably will be, well, let's see, it'll be the middle of the next decade before it starts to come down. My question for you is, Deb Matthews, who's the former head of the Treasury Board, the former deputy premier, says, as long as that number is below 40, we're okay. Is she right?
I missed that economic principle. Maybe I didn't take the right kind of courses. I don't know where the 40 comes from. You couldn't even answer that question irrespective of interest, because one of the damaging things about the large debt is you do have to pay interest on it. At the moment, every 8 cents, you just paid your taxes yesterday or a couple of days ago, every 8 cents of that, in Ontario's case, is going to pay the interest on public debt. It's not available for your health care or your children's education or city streets or anything else. It's basically going to pay interest on something that you or somebody else consumed long time in the past. It's kind of wasted. You might as well put it in the fireplace and burn it, right? And you want to be careful of that number not going up too high, and it's very low right now. Big debt, but you got low interest rates. Interest rates are going up, and they'll go up further. And so I can't pick a number like 40 because it has to be in the context. What's scary about that chart is that every time there's an economic downturn, that debt number jumps up 10 or 15 percentage points. And then in theory, it should come back down, but it doesn't.
It just keeps going up.
It goes up 10 or 15, and it flattens at best. Then it goes up again. So the number I keep coming back on my mind, prior to the financial crises in 2008, that debt burden was 26%. I think that's a pretty reasonable number, but we're going to jump up to 38. And the economy is performing very well. It should actually be getting back to 27%. And, you know, we've accepted this principle, thou shalt run balanced budgets. Well, you can't just say that because it depends on your debt level is. If you have too high a debt level, you actually have to run budget surpluses. And that's the circumstance Ontario is. The goal is not to preserve the balanced budget of the last year, is actually you have to run surpluses for a while. So we're going in the opposite direction.
You made 366 recommendations 6 years ago with your task force. And I'm wondering, have you kept score? And do you know what percentage has been implemented?
Well, I had an interesting experience. It was a couple of years ago. I was shown a spreadsheet, and it had all the 366. It was a leap year, so there was one per day. That's why it wasn't 365. And it had categorically rejected, generally accepted, status today, and if it hadn't been implemented, what the impediments were. When I was presented this, it had 70% of the 366 had been implemented. And I was kind of surprised because I guarantee you this, if we go outside of the studio right now and ask people in the street, they will probably say virtually none of them. That seems to be the popular perception. And people who are well informed in these kind of areas seem to think that. And so I was skeptical. So I had a while to look at this thing, and I tried to be critical of it. I wore a critical eye, and I said, man, they're probably exaggerating here and there. And actually, I found there were some cases where they hadn't counted things that they'd actually done. So I had like scope of practice in healthcare. Well, pharmacists can do vaccines right now. Well, that's scope of practice, and you know, it's not everything I had in mind, but at least a faint tick could be beside that. So I actually thought maybe it was a little bit higher than the 70%. Unfortunately, they kind of lost interest, so I think they did quite a bit of it. But I'll come back to what I said before. So grosso modo, they followed the overall spending pattern. They just didn't do some of the underlying reforms. And that's unfortunate because you can squeeze anything for a while just by squeezing it. But if you don't actually do the underlying reforms...
So give us an example. What's an underlying reform they should have done?
It was just going further. So in healthcare is actually one of the areas where they have done some reforms, but not all of them. So we still have over 10% of the people in hospitals or what we call alternative levels of care that shouldn't be in the hospital at all. They tend to be in hospitals longer than they need to do. We still don't have complete coordination of care. We don't have enough long-term care facilities, but a lot of the people that are going to go into long-term care facilities should be in a home-based environment, and there are initiatives, but that's not very fulsome.
Well, but the government's view is people need care. They need dentacare, they need child care, they need home care, they need pharmacare, they need all these different kinds of care. And according to the government of the day anyway, people are clamoring for the government to go into deficit to pay for these things. So are they wrong to do that?
Well, first of all, let's just talk about fairness before we talk right and wrong, because that's what the public debt comes about. So you're saying that we here sitting today should build up debt and somebody else, maybe us later in our life, but maybe our children, even our children, should pay for that. Is that fair? I'd say not. You could argue if we have a debt burden of this 37% and we're passing on capital assets, government buildings and airports and roads equivalent to 37%, fair enough, right? We're going to give our children $1 of debt, but we're giving them $1 of asset they can work with. But that's not what we're doing. We're giving them far less assets than we are. So there's an intergenerational aspect of it. It is unfair. Is it okay? Well, it is future taxation. And you know, you're probably going to go here, but I'll put it on the table right now. 25% reduction in electricity prices, maybe another 12% on top of that. Where's that going to come from? Well, it's coming from somebody in the future. It's not coming off a tree.
We're going to borrow
somebody has to buy it.
$13 billion today.
Yeah, either
and pay back $40 billion in 30 years from
we
now.
ourselves will pay for it, or more likely, somebody who's not consuming the electricity today will end up paying for it. That's inefficient, and it's unfair. So I think it is problematic. And yes, people want that, but you can have to take it out of your tax base, and there's limits. I mean, the top marginal tax rate in Ontario is over 50%. I would argue that's gone too far. I mean, you get them to keep less than half of it. You kind of wonder if it's worthwhile doing the activities that generate the income. So you're kind of hard pressed on that revenue basis, but you do have to respect it. It does offer a speed limit, what you can do. But that comes back to, if you have that speed limit, how much you can spend, you better be sure it's effective and it's efficient. And there's still more things that need to be done. Do credit and respect for the Ontario government. As I said, health is one of the areas where they have been making some great strides. I was shocked when I did in 2011 the 1% of the population that accounts for about 50% of the healthcare spending, 50%, 70%, and almost no coordination of that. And they are coordinating that. We have about 30 nurse-led clinics in Ontario where they're perfectly satisfied to deal with the needs of people and have high ratings of people do it. That's the kind of thing that they needed to do, and they are doing some of that, but there's a lot more of that. Business subsidies, training programs, there's no clear objectives, there's no clear auditing in the results. So that's kind of the part underneath the surface. Yeah, you restrain the spending, but you got to do the reforms to the structural elements, and there's still an agenda that needs to be completed on that side.
Let me get you back to taxes. If you see the size of the deficits, and frankly, every party running for office acknowledges there are going to be year after year after year after year of deficits looking into the future now. What taxes do you think could be raised in order to deal with the deficit? Because I presume you're looking at a mixture of some spending restraint and tax increases. What taxes could you increase?
So let's just use a process of elimination. The biggest one is the personal income tax. I don't think you can hit the top anymore. At both federal and provincial, we have temporary surtaxes that are going to be just as permanent. I mean, the personal income tax in 1917 was supposed to be temporary. These surtaxes are probably going to outlive that. I don't think
they took them off in the last budget.
But
the Ontario budget.
But we're still at 54% at the top marginal tax rate. I don't think you can press that. For middle income people who have children, because the combinations of the so-called tax backs at the federal and provincial level, people can face a marginal tax rate of well over 50%. I mean, this is the point in Warren Buffett that his secretary's marginal tax rate is higher than his. So I don't think you can go any further on the personal income tax rates. They should come down. Corporate income tax, our great thing was how messed up the U.S. tax system was. And, well, I think it's scandalous what they did. They so-called reformed it, but added $1.5 trillion to their deficits to do it, and that's not acceptable. They have lowered their tax rate, and for competitive reasons, I don't think we can go to the well on the corporate tax. In fact, there's pressure to go that down. So you've taken two of the big ones off. Absolutely, the Ontario component of the GST, everyone will tell you it's unpopular, but that is there. Economically, it's the least damaging. And of course, we have the cap and trade, or if we went to the equivalent, as Patrick Brown said he wanted to do as a carbon tax, that's a potential a lot of money. But in my mind, that's not there for the deficit. Economically and certainly politically, I think you have to do what BC does, and you have to at least what they used to do and demonstrate credibly you're recycling all of that. I'm taking $1 in a carbon tax, but I'm going to give $1 back on other taxes. There's some bits and pieces you could do on the excise taxes, but it's not the big money. So the big money really comes back to on the broad-based sales tax. And we know in Europe, those rates are in the high teens and the low 20s. So there is precedent for those rates to be much higher.
So your recommendation to government would be show a little guts, increase the goods and services to that. Well, it's now harmonized, the harmonized sales tax.
Well, that wouldn't be my first avenue. So
no?
Really, here's my take. So since 2011, to get back to this balanced budget, spending of the Ontario government just increased slightly above 2.5% a year. That's very low for a long period of time. And we can go back to Mike Harris and Roy Romano and the federal government and the history war that they did heroic things, but they constrained spending for 2 and at most 3 years. It was the economy got them back on track. They balanced the budget and out. This was extended for a period of time. And everybody thinks that was tough restraint. It's temporary. Now we can have it grow faster. Sorry, that doesn't work that way. And what I expect to happen to the economy and what that would do to revenues, that expenditure track of about 2.5%, maybe at most 2.75% has got to be preserved for another 10 years. So my front line is learn to live with that. And how do you live with that? You can't offer everything. You've got to become relentlessly more efficient and more effective. I think you can without going first to the tax well.
Okay. One of the things that Doug Ford wants to do, the new leader of the Conservative Party, is he says, I can find 4 cents on the dollar, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And we can find some savings that way. Is he right?
So I lost track a long time ago how many of these exercises I've gone through, particularly at the federal government. I don't think we've ever had a minister of finance who hasn't come in or a president of the Treasury Board that says that. And the evidence is, as in any organization, TVO, whether it's a big bank or a big life insurance company, you can find 1 to 3 cents that, you got more office space than you need, or you can cut back in your travel. Once you get beyond that, you're cutting your real programs. And there is a truism of government expenditure, whether you think it's worthwhile or not. Every single cent that the government spends goes to somebody. And a dollar that goes to you might be wasted in my eyes, but you similarly might think a dollar come to me is wasted. So it goes somewhere, and somebody does something with it. So there are implications of everything. So in these rushes to these efficiencies, you can take off a little bit, but does that easily allow you to constrain program spending growth at 2.5%? Absolutely not. It's totally deceiving to think. That is really tough. And you've got to go to a root and branch of all the programs and restructure the formation of those very programs.
What's your view about the NDP's fiscal plans, which we should say also provide for deficit spending over the next 4 years, but at a smaller deficit rate than the Liberals?
Yeah, so here's why I got to step back and make it even more complicated than it seems. So I don't accept the underlying premise of the Ontario budgets. Not this last one and not the one before.
You're with the Auditor General.
Not just on the accounting.
Okay.
So the accounting adds 4 to 7. So basically the Ontario government, based on private sector forecasts, assumes that the Ontario economy will grow about 2% a year in real terms into the future. Slower than its past because of the demographics. I don't believe that. I think it's going to be more like 1.5%. And you may not think that's a big difference between 1.5% and 2%, but try compounding that over 10 years. It's a huge difference. I mean, right off the bat is the difference between program spending growing at about 3% a year and only being able to grow at about 2.5%. So just do the math of that. If the economy grows at real terms 1.5%, inflation continues at 2%, you got 3.5% growth in the economy. That will give you about 3.5% growth in your revenues. And you got to not just balance the budget and probably coming in a new government do these accounting changes as well, which is going to make those $10 to $14 billion deficits. You got to go into a surplus. So that 0.5% growth really hurts that effort. So in the Conservative plan, at least, and the one that they used, and the previous leader was based on the Ontario budget. And I kind of go, beep, no, can't do that. I don't think that's a credible basis. The NDP also accepts that as a leap-off point, and I think you got to readjust on all of them. The horizon, this is simply the aging of the population. With the aging of the population and the effect that has a slowing labor force, and if productivity growth in the Ontario economy is similar to the way it's been in the last 20 years, which I think is a reasonable assumption, you're only going to get about 1.5% growth. What's behind these other forecasts is that productivity growth is going to go back to where it was in the 60s and 70s. Hey, I hope so. You should try. But does that sound like a reasonable proposition? That was a long time ago.
I want to read one last thing to you here, and this is what you wrote 6 years ago in your special report. Ontario faces more severe economic and fiscal challenges than most Ontarians realize. We can no longer assume a resumption of Ontario's traditional strong economic growth and the continued prosperity on which the province has built its public services. Nor can we count on steady, dependable revenue growth to finance government programs. Unless policymakers act swiftly and boldly to prevent such an outcome, Ontario faces a series of deficits that would undermine the province's economic and social future. How relevant are those words still today?
Well, it was so well written. Are you sure I wrote it? But that's exactly what I was talking about. It'd be tough enough if the Ontario government and many private sector forecasts, as I say, they're not alone in this camp, were right and the economy is going to grow at 2%. 1.5% is a different ballgame.
That's a challenge.
And you've got a 38% debt GDP ratio on top of that. And you've got the aging population. It hits you on both sides because it lowers your economic growth, but it increases your healthcare spending. So aging adds about 1 percentage point a year on top of whatever your health. population adds about 1, but aging itself adds about another %. So you got it pulling out on both directions.
I think what I hear you saying is you would not want to be the next Minister of Finance for the province of Ontario.
So that's the interesting thing, because I've served many ministers of finances who came into situations like that, Paul Martin, and bless the heart of the politicians, it seems like no matter how big the problem is or how steep the challenge is, they still want to be in office. So somebody, whoever comes in, yeah, I think not just going back and probably restating the book because of these two accounting discrepancies, I think using a more reasonable growth track, they're going to realize they're in trouble. And I think you can't think below 40% the debt ratio is satisfactory. I think you got to go back to that 27%. There's no reason why it should go up in every economic cycle. It can temporarily go up. But when you're dealing with an economy with an unemployment rate of 5.5% and economic growth that's been north of 2.5%, you shouldn't be running deficits.
That's Don Drummond, economist, Queen's University. We always appreciate your visits here at TVO, Don. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.